This is eCommerce Uncensored. Brought to you by Fast Forward Unlimited. We're coming to you fully loaded and exposed with all the strategies and techniques for growing your e-commerce business.
Hey everyone, and thanks for joining us on another episode of eCommerce Uncensored. This is episode 47. My name is Kevin Manel, and I'm here with
Jason Caruso,
as usual. And today we're going to be talking about what we feel is one of the strongest, most powerful marketing tools you have, and that's email. And I know, Jason, you're extremely passionate about it, and you recently came up with the little cheat sheet that we're putting out there for you guys to download, that you can check out. If you go to our podcast notes, you can download a copy of that. But we're just going to go through those 5 keys that are in this cheat sheet one by one.
Yeah, I mean, we have, as an agency here, we are exposed to a lot of different, I would say, areas of online marketing, especially for e-commerce. And, it's not a secret that email is probably one of the most profitable, if not the most profitable means of marketing to your clients or your customers. And we're seeing more and more the power of email. And I took a look at sort of, what I find to be the most important aspects of email, because, you can certainly send out an email that doesn't work, that doesn't get any response. And I've come up with this cheat sheet of, 5 keys that I think are the most important to getting actual results. In fact, we've been talking a lot here about how email is probably like one of the easiest places for us to get results for our clients, like instantly, right? Like we just got on with this client of ours who we've been working with for a while in one of the other sides of our business, and we just did like email for them. And I mean, they doubled their revenue instantly.
They had a list. They had a starting point, so that's always good. I mean, it gets easier as you grow your email list. So if you're starting from nothing, it's hard to grow that list to begin with. But like Jason said, if you have that list, it is one of the easiest things. And it's funny because as a studio here, we still run into difficulties, convincing people. This one client that Jason's talking about, it took us a while, almost a year.
No, almost 2 years. I've been here for almost 2 years.
Yeah, and we've been hitting them, ever since. And I think people, and we do Facebook ads too, and I think people are just, I don't know if they feel more comfortable with it, or they think it's newer or whatever. Facebook ads is always an easier sell for us, I feel like, because they feel like they need it, and they just kind of like brush off email.
Well, the other thing I think is that people don't know how to run Facebook ads. People think they know how to send emails. I think that's really what it comes down to, because they were sending emails and they don't really know how to measure, what's good and what's bad. They don't know what, and they don't know that it could be better. They're like, oh, we're just sending on email. That's good enough. And, the truth is, when we go through these 5 keys, you're going to see really what makes a good email and what makes an email that actually gets results. And this is like from, years and years of doing this. And we've kind of narrowed it down to these five keys. So why don't we get started here, buddy?
All right. Key number 1 is going to be the subject line. And I think this is probably one of the most important parts of it, because it's your entry point into someone's world, I guess you could say, and it drives them to open the email. So there's some strategies that we talk about in this cheat sheet that are going to increase your open rates just by changing your subject line.
Yeah, and one thing that I think I want to mention really quickly, it just came up in my head here while Kevin was talking, is that, I don't know that any of these things actually work on me, but they work. Like when we do them, like they work.
I can tell you that they work on me, because I look at it a lot, because I see it and I just have that curiosity, and I can see a subject line and I can say that's just a subject line to get me to open the email. And I do it anyway.
Right.
It's messed up.
So, one thing that I've been using a lot of is I really like the curiosity subject line. I go into this a little bit more deeper in the cheat sheet. So, if you go to the podcast notes, we'll have the cheat sheet there. Because I think in one of our previous episodes, I don't remember which one, but we did talk about curiosity and the different kinds of subject lines. But what I've been using a lot that's working really, really well is like short, punchy type curiosity subject lines. Not like the clickbait type where they're like they say something like, this is why, so-and-so got thrown off the baseball team. And then like you open the email and it like has nothing to do with that. It's just like clickbait. But actual subject lines that are short and punchy and do offer some sort of curiosity. And I'll give you an example of one that I used that worked really well. And it's for this client who sells baby stuff. And I basically said, which one did I use that's really good? I had one in mind, but I don't know if that one worked as well. It said something like, they're here, or something like something like that, like where it's just like they're here,
yeah,
right? It's like, what do you mean they're here? What are you talking about? And then they opened it, and then I basically said the fall, 2017 fall collection is here. Now that sort of leads into the next key. So key number 1 is the subject line.
Well, I think first, before you move on, I think this goes back to your point about people being more familiar with email and thinking that they know what they're doing and where they fall short. Because I think with all the options out there, with your MailChimps and your Constant Contacts, they make it so easy to sign up for an account. Then they feel like they're just going to like put this offer into an email, and they're going to say newsletter spring 2017.
Right.
And it can't be worse than that, really.
No, well, right. But something equally as worse is like save 20% off on, whatever. It's like, okay, well, they can make a decision whether to open the email or not just by the subject line. And if you're telling somebody, here's 20% off of our baby stuff, like maybe they don't want 20% off. Maybe that's doesn't mean anything to them. Maybe whatever. So that's a good, thanks for going back to this, Kevin. The number one thing for me is that you can't allow the person to make an open decision whether or not the email is for them or not just by the subject line. You have to force them to open the email to make sure the subject line, or make sure that they know whether the email is for them or not. Is that clear?
Yeah, that's totally clear. I mean, you're not really giving yourself much of a chance to change their mind if they're not ready to buy something, right? The selling power is going to come within the body of the email.
Within the creative.
So you could totally turn someone from not ready to buy to a buyer right there. If they see something in the email, or, the offer is really good, just because they're not ready to buy at the subject line level, you could totally change their mind.
Yeah, and there's not much inspiration in the subject line. Whereas when we, come up with some like awesome creative, it could push them. Maybe they see the product, in a lifestyle image or whatever, and they say, oh, you know what, that's cute, or that's great, or I want it, whatever. But yeah, so you can't let them make the decision whether or not the email is for them just by reading the subject line. Okay. And that works awesome. I mean, we take our clients from recently 10% open rates to 20 or 30. We just sent out an email Monday. They got they're getting 30% open rate.
Yeah, and
so
the next one ties right into that is the congruency of the email body. So the message you have inside your email, tying it back to the actual subject line. So you want to get creative and pique some curiosity in the subject line, but you don't want to trick them into opening and seeing something that they weren't expecting.
Yeah, and the email that I just said that it's here, basically the inside of the email, it said fall is here. Fall is near, but the 2017 fall collection is already here. So basically, the subject line set, tied in with the body of the email, right? Like, it becomes clickbait when the subject line and the email don't match, and you piss people off when your subject line tricked them to open the email. Whereas even if you trick them to open the email with a very punchy type subject line, if it ties in to the email body, it just releases some tension. Like they don't feel like they were duped into opening the email, and it kind of takes them from being annoyed to like, oh, okay, it makes sense. And it's big. It doesn't sound like maybe something that is big, but it is. It's huge.
Yeah, and you're talking about unsubscribes. You piss somebody off, they didn't want to see it, you trick them, they're more likely to unsubscribe, they're more likely to hit it spam. So you're running into all kinds of problems if you try to, get the clickbait like Jason's talking about.
Yeah, so the next one
is very
I'm gonna say it because you know what? We have to be transparent here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was just thinking of that too. Same thing.
So in our studio here, we have a lot of creatives, and oftentimes creative people, hyper focus on making something look really nice because that's what they're good at.
Be nice. Paul's right there. He's filming us on
Actually,
Instagram.
you did it.
That's right.
So it was your fault. So, but Paul does this too. I mean, I can't. How many times, Paul, have I said, "Hey, man, we forgot to put the next key, which is a call to action." Right? Like, hey guys, click here to start shopping, or click here. Paul and I, like, we do this all the time, right? Like, it's one thing that I feel like when you're creating a banner or an email, it's like that's not what's on your mind. Like, you're trying to make all the pieces look nice. But we clearly see a difference in click-through when we have a call to action as opposed to not having a call to action. So I don't know if you want to elaborate on that, but you, by the way, were the one that made this mistake.
I know. And that's what makes us like a really good team. That might sound cheesy, but I think we make a really good team in that way because Paul and I kind of work on both ends of the strategy between the marketing and the creative. But I can see myself once I'm into that creative mode. It's just I want to create the coolest looking thing I can think of, and I just don't think of the next step. And I think Paul probably feels the same. So that's
well, you guys can spend, an hour or more just creating like an email banner, or an email, and the last thing you're thinking about is like a buy now or shop now or something. Like you're like trying to make all the pieces just look good, and that's sort of I can't do what you guys can do. Like it's not even it's like I can't even come in like the same atmosphere or world or whatever. So. I look at it more from a, analytical type, like what are we making the person do? So call to action.
Yeah,
if it's not clear.
What Jason's talking about, yesterday or Monday, we sent our first email out for this new client, which we got this huge open rate, almost 30%.
I think it's at 30% now.
Which is remarkable. And Jason's just checking the account, looking over the numbers. We see that the click-through rate really wasn't that high. Now, we didn't think too much of it at first because it is their first email campaign. And Jason just said, he's like, we forgot to put a call to action in this email. Totally overlooked it. So, we have this automation in place, and we're just going to put it in place in the next ones. And we're just going to see. We'll be able to see the difference. And I think there will be a difference.
No, there absolutely will be because it wasn't clear, even in the copy, that they should click to, it's just like use this coupon code, And actually, Paul and I have made this same mistake a couple times where we've come up with the creative. We actually made the mistake once. We sent out the email, and then we sent it out again with the call to action. I believe the click-through rate was better. I mean, I think it was one of like I forgot who it was with. But anyway.
So be clear. Tell them what you want them to do. You want them to shop. You want them to buy. You want them to sign up. Have that button there present for them to just have them think less. They don't want to think when they're going through an email. Just make it clear. Tell them what to do, and you'll have better success.
Yeah, I mean, when I used to do conversion optimization for websites, which is not so much a thing anymore. You don't hear that much. But I always just say is like, you want to, I mean, it just sounds bad, but this is the truth. Like, you can't have people think too much. If once they start thinking, it's like you're screwed. Like they don't want to buy anymore. Their wife or their husband don't want them to spend money. Whatever. You don't want them to think. Just like get them in, get them out, and that's it.
Put that colorful little button in front of their face. They're not going to read your copy. I mean, they might read the first couple sentences or something, but they're really just going to be attracted to those little buttons and things that they should do. So,
right.
Very
now,
important.
I want to switch these next two because I think the fifth key really should be the fourth because it goes with the call to action and the email body, and that is scarcity. Okay? So, scarcity, I think, is probably one of the most important parts of the email. You always must have an end date to the offer. Whatever you're offering, there has to be an end date. Now, I want to give you another example from this baby client and I use these guys a lot because I send out a lot of emails for them, but I just recently did one that I just told you about for the 2017, and I haven't told you this yet, 2017 fall collection, okay? Because it was like a new collection, they didn't want to give any sort of offer. They just wanted to let people know about it because they don't want to just start discounting, right? Now, back during Mother's Day, Father's Day, 4th of July, and Memorial Day, right? Those 4 holidays are like within like a month of each other, right? Like May, June, right? May and June.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I sent out 4. No, I mean, I remember.
I'm very bad at that.
Okay, so I sent out 4 holidays and multiple emails for those 4 holidays. Okay, it must have been like 8 or 9 emails within a month. Okay, they all like 20%, 30% off. You know, had deep discounts. They all had end dates. Every single one of them performed equally as good. We just sent one out, I think it was like last week or something, for the 2017 fall collection. The first one did well. Like, you know, the early adopters, the people who don't really care about the offer, they all buyed.
Did you say buyed?
So, sorry.
Sorry, I had to jump in there.
Yeah, they all bought. Now, I just sent out the same type of email like 2 days ago or whatever, different creative, but the same idea, and it flopped. Right? No offer, no end date, no scarcity, no nothing, and it completely flopped. So you have to really have some sort of scarcity. You have to have an end date. You have to make people, and now you can't lie. Don't say it's like the end date is next week and then you keep extending it. I mean, you can extend it once, but I wouldn't go much more than that. Really have an end date and hold that date. So that's something that
people have that fear of missing out. I mean, it's definitely
fear of loss. That's just something innate in us as humans.
Yeah.
So scarcity is huge. And
maybe limit the amount of products that they can buy. That's another way to do it. Make them feel like if they don't get in right now, they're going to miss out. So it's very important. Also, something you could do is as far as the creative go for an email, is you can add a timer. And we have done that, and we've seen some success with that. There's some free tools out there that you can use for that. I think that works a lot too. Yeah.
So scarcity is huge. I really believe that's. Now you guys can see like this. So far, this is not like overly complicated, right? It's like subject line, congruency with the email body, call to action, scarcity. It's very simple, but you have to have these pieces. If you don't have these pieces, the potential of your email is really going to hurt.
It almost sounds obvious a little bit too when you go through it, but just people don't think about it and how
and
important it is.
Sometimes we miss it.
Yeah,
and that's so. The last one, I think, it's not the same as the other 4, but I definitely feel that people forget about this, and it's because they don't want to annoy people, and that is frequency, right? So a lot of people that we work with, a lot of people that I've worked with in the past, it's like, oh, I don't want to send too many emails, right?
Yeah.
People unsubscribe, people get annoyed. Now, there are ways around this, like you can send, emails to people who haven't opened up the email, and that'll help that issue. But I just want you guys to think of this another way. If we send out an email and 20% of our list opens up the email, okay? That means 80% of them didn't, okay? Then you send another email, maybe another 10% open. That's about what we see, right? About 20. Then the next time we send about another 10%, so you get about 30%. That means like the majority of your list, if you just send 2 emails, are not seeing the email, right?
Yeah, I think people have this thought that they just natural thought that I'm going to send an email out and everyone on my list is going to see it. And they're just like, I don't want to annoy everybody. So, and I think it can narrow your list down a little bit too. If people are getting it too much and they don't want to see it, then they can leave. They don't need it anymore.
Maybe they're not a buyer anymore, and maybe they don't want to be there, and then let them go. I mean, it's fine, but really the vast majority of people aren't going to see them all. Right. So it's not like you're wearing out the list. Now, you don't want to send 10 emails within a week or so. Yeah, eventually you're going to start annoying people, but what we find is that 3 emails for one offer, maybe 4, is a good number. So you definitely want to send one when the offer starts and when it ends, right? Those are 2 big times. And then I like to send 1 or 2 in between that. Yeah. So that you just remind people.
Yeah, and you change the subject line, you change the copy of the body a little bit, and you make it new every time they get it. And I think another way to make you feel better, if you're having that feeling of annoying somebody, get creative with the concept of the emails that you send out. Don't always send out an offer. I mean, we just had this discussion with a client about sending another offer at the end of the month. Maybe it's not an offer. Maybe it's just an introduction of how great the product is, or maybe a nice piece of content or a valuable piece of content that you can send out to them. It doesn't have to be for sales every time. It could just be for branding or a message that you want to put out there. And that keeps people moving along the customer journey.
Exactly. All right, guys. Subject line, congruency with the subject line and the email body, call to action, scarcity, and frequency. Now, we have a download at eCommerceUncensored.com /
Let's do
47?
47.
Yeah.
We're going to do that link now. Now, you can go to our website. It's going to be episode 47 of our podcast. The podcast notes will be there, and you can click on the button.
You can download this. Paul made a beautiful PDF, and I expand upon a little bit of what we spoke about today.
Yeah, and you can just use it as a tool. Every time you go to send an email out, you can just kind of go down this list and check it off. So
exactly.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. Y'all set?
Yeah, I'm good, man.
All right, thank you guys so much. This has been episode 47. Again, you can check out all the podcast notes at eCommerceUncensored.com. Thank you guys so much.
Later.